The man gently blew into his hand, and the dead mouse lying in his palm suddenly sprang back to life. Then, from his mouth, a cloud of flies burst out. That man's name was John Coffey. A few days earlier, two young daughters of a farmer had gone missing. When they were found, their bodies were discovered in Coffey's arm. Because of this, he was sentenced to death. Prison guard Paul Edgecombe couldn't make sense of it. Coffey was massive in size, but when it came to courage, he seemed smaller than a mouse. This prison was reserved for inmates sentenced to the electric chair. The process was brutal. Their heads were shaved, a wet sponge placed on top to conduct electricity straight into the brain, and then they were executed quickly. Not long after, a new prisoner named William arrived. Coffey warned Paul about him, and sure enough, Warren lashed out, kicking Paul hard in the groin. Paul had been suffering from a painful urinary infection for years. Every trip to the bathroom was torture, and his wife was growing weary of it too. Doubled over in agony, Paul was suddenly pulled close by Coffey. The giant man grabbed Paul by the collar with one hand and placed the other over his groin. Lights in the room flickered and burst as Coffey coughed violently, spewing flies from his mouth. When Paul went to the bathroom later, for the first time in years, the pain was gone. There was another guard named Percy Wetmore, the warden's spoiled nephew, who only worked there to flaunt his family connections. Arrogant and cruel, he targeted a little mouse that had wandered into the prison. But the mouse soon became the beloved companion of inmate Edouard Delacroix, who even taught it tricks. The tiny creature brought rare joy to death row. Still, as Delacroix's execution date drew closer, his biggest worry was who would care for the mouse after he was gone. Everyone promised to look after it, but one day when the mouse got loose, Percy cruelly stomped on it. Paul quickly scooped it up and handed it to Coffey, who gently breathed life back into it. The guards were left stunned, but Percy wasn't done. During Delacroix's execution, he deliberately broke protocol. He didn't wet the sponge. When the switch was pulled, Delacroix screamed in agony, his body burning as smoke filled the chamber. Coffey felt the same pain inside him, collapsing as if he too were dying. The guards were furious, but Percy's powerful uncle protected him. Meanwhile, the warden's wife was suffering from a brain tumor. Paul thought maybe Coffey could help, but sneaking a death row prisoner out was a crime that could end their careers. Still, they made a plan, drugging Warden and locking Percy away. That night, they took Coffey to the warden's home. Coffey kissed the dying woman, breathed deeply, then coughed violently. But this time, no flies came out. Instead, the tumor was gone. She was healed. Back at the prison, Percy was released, seething with anger. He threatened to ruin everyone with his uncle's influence. Suddenly, Coffey grabbed him and forced a swarm of flies into his mouth. Percy went into a trance, pulled his gun, and shot Warden dead. Paul, shaken, asked Coffey why. Coffey didn't answer with words. He grabbed Paul's hand and filled his mind with visions. The truth became clear. Wharton had been the one who murdered the farmer's daughters. Coffey had only tried to help them, but when he arrived, it was too late. The real killer was now dead, but Coffey, an innocent man, was still destined for the chair.